Hello, this is Abina at Cross Keys Crafts. I just watched a video by a lady called Alison on a YouTube channel called Words and Pictures. I've seen a few videos of hers, but today's really caught my eye. She made some autumnal backgrounds, and I was really intrigued by her playing with her sprays and all the media she had. And it reminded me that I own two sprays, which are these Lavinia acrylic sprays. I bought these. This is a chartreuse, that's the cranberry red. I bought these because I really love the combination of green and pink. But I can't remember using them, so I'd like to say I have never used them. I also just found, when I thought I'd give it a trial run before I start the camera, that both of these were a little bit clogged. But I resolved that by taking the tops off here. You can just unscrew them, and I soaked them in warm, rather hot water actually, and then pumped them a few times. This one declogged more easily than this one. This one has got a bit of water now in there, but I don't think that really matters. So I thought, although these are not necessarily autumnal colours, but I thought I'm going to use these today and just have a play with these. I have just a piece of A4 cardstock here. This is my usual 300 GSM. I would like to create two different cards from whatever I'm creating here today. One part I would like to use as a background, and the other one I would like to use for die cutting. If you haven't got sprays, you might have different sprays. You might have like mica sprays, or you can just get the distress oxide and distress ink sprays. Obviously you can use those, but if you haven't got those, there are other techniques for creating backgrounds like ink smooshing, or you can use your gel press. So there are loads of ideas that you can use to create similar cards, but I thought I need to start using my stash. What I have got here, slightly hidden by the camera, is my shoebox, which is my spray box. I've also lined it a little bit because I don't want to mess up the box too much. These are acrylic sprays, so I expect these to be a bit more permanent. I will actually turn this A4 sheet sideways, so most of it will hopefully end up on the paper. And I thought I'd just go in randomly spraying these. And then I've also got a little bit of bubble wrap to get in some texture. I don't want to do too much with this. I will leave these to dry afterwards as well, because I don't have much time for crafting now, and I don't want this to be too much about how to create the backgrounds. I will leave a link to Alison's video below because she's amazing with doing this, but this is really just for me to spray. So, and I think why I only used these ones is because it didn't spray fine enough for my taste. Let me just lift this up just a little bit. I think I was a bit disappointed that it's very pointed. Maybe it's meant to be that way, but I think that's why I initially didn't like it as much as I thought I would. So this one actually sprays much finer than the pink. Can you see the difference there? This covers this really nicely. So I love the speckled look of that, but as I said, I'm not happy with this. Whether it is the nozzle, I thought I might actually have bottles that are the same size that I could use and just decant it, or just put the different spray top on it. So with these now, because I don't like the pink, I just want to go into that and just move that about a little bit. And initially realised I don't like that. This is too much pink. But I will leave this in the video as an intro. I'll get a different piece of cardstock out, and I will have less of the pink, and I'm trying to see what I can do to that top here, and more of the green. So I've sprayed the green background again. I like these specks that appeared randomly, but I will also take this out and add a few more deliberately. I like the look of that. You can also use a brush if you want to. So I think I'm happy with that. So with the pink, I just decanted something into a different bottle. These are smaller, these spray heads, but this was a spare bottle I had, and I already tested it on the side, so this is much better. So I can use that to add some colour, and I really like the speckles of that. I'm not sure how well camera picks those up. I think I want it a bit heavier on some areas. You can also see the direction which I'm spraying it, so I will change that a little bit. I think that's enough, and I will do the same here with the splats. Just add some more here without getting it on myself. That's actually a better technique, rather than shaking my whole arm just to tap it with my finger. So it doesn't look very autumnal, but I think once I've finished with it, it will look, well, nice enough for the theme I wanted. I was contemplating whether I want to go in with some yellow as well, but I'll leave that to dry because my main aim was anyway to use these acrylic ink, sprays, and come back to it later. I'm just popping in again. I just thought I'd do a second one off camera, and this gave a completely different spray pattern because I think I held the spray bottle closer. But I realised when I was dabbing it with some tissue paper that these colours actually mixed and created a sort of brown. So I thought I would definitely go in deliberately, add more ink and dab it to create this sort of brown shade that I would like for my autumnal piece. So just going in over this again, and then where I've got a lot of colour, just dabbing it where it, which gives a lot of nice texture as well. And then I've got actually this sort of mixed in yellowish colour that I wanted. You can see it actually creates some brown when you mix these. I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but I've got the more warmer colours with this, whereas the first one I've got actually the colours still very separate, very speckled but very separate, and I think I can probably use these in combination. It's been 2 days since I created these. I had other things to do, had a lot of work on, so these have obviously dried quite nicely, but they're actually quite dried very quickly. So this is the first one I had. That was a bit more, well, with smaller speckles actually, and this one was the second one I created, where I went over it with my tissue paper and actually mixed the colours. So this looks quite muddy, and I've got an idea what to do with part of this, but I thought I'd first start with just cutting this into 4 card bases that are 4 by 5 7/8, and just to have these as backgrounds. I like them as they are. At first I thought about introducing some yellow with some ink blending or stamping, but I think I just stick with this because my original idea was to show you how to create these cards without having too many autumnal colours. With this one here, I thought I'd just have a go and die cut from this panel from the more muddy areas. I've got some leaf dies here. I believe these were just from Amazon. I've always kept them together, and I would love to keep them together and cut them in one go, but I have an idea where I would actually need one to be separated. I'm not sure yet whether I will do that. And I've also got these 2 dies. They came with a Christmas magazine where you created a wreath or embellishments from these, so I might use these as well. So as I said, I will just quickly off camera cut the paper, die cut some of these, and then we'll have a play. I've got quite a few ideas for cards, and yeah, you see me in a sec. I have cut my leaves here, and when I set them onto the background, you see they get lost a little bit. This is actually a look that can be quite nice, and I think I will create a card from this in a moment, and I'll show you a technique how you can make that a feature. But if you want these to pop a little bit, you can either put some vellum behind this. You could put potentially cut like an oval shape or any shape really. Just want to show you with this piece of vellum here that I haven't cut yet. And when you put them on here now, can you see how much better they pop? So you can either put a piece of vellum all over or have it, as I said, a certain shape that makes it pop off, which is really quite nice. But I don't want to do that today because I think I've shown that technique before. The other way is to add a little bit of colour on these, and I will do that with one set where I would like to add some gold gilding polish. I said gilding polish, I've got the green gilding polish here, but for some gold I've actually got the Simon Hurley Lunar paste. They both work the same way, so they're like a mousse, and then you can actually just use your fingers. So I just want to show you that, and I'll just maybe even dab it over. It gives a lovely shimmer. So I think I'll just use both colours. Try not to get too much on my finger there actually, because I do not want to cover the whole of the leaf, because I'd like that speckled look. So I'm just really just brushing along the edge there and a little bit in the middle. Don't know how the camera picks up. It dries very quickly as well, which is nice. If you haven't got any of these polishes, you could use some embossing powder on these as well. I was thinking about doing that with some of the die cuts. So all you need to do is just spread it out a little bit so you can pick it up. And very randomly apply that. I might need a little bit more there. These are not cheap, these polishes and the lunar pastes, but they last a lifetime. I use them for quite a few projects and I've got tons still left, so they are a good investment. I think this one I've nearly covered completely now. You can use like a little makeup applicator, you know, like you use for your eyeshadows if you don't want to get your fingers mucky. But I really like the tactile part of this. So, I don't know if you can see that. So, when I place them on my card now, they will pop much more. Hope it shows now, especially against the light. I really like this. So, I'm just cleaning up my fingers and then I come back with a second technique. I have put some more gilding polish on a piece of this cardstock, and I have die cut this Hello Autumn from it to put onto my card here as well. My idea is now to put these on here, some stacked up with foam, and make like a leaf bundle, a bit like a pile of leaves, and to add a little bow. I will do this all off camera because you don't need me to see me do this, but I just wanted to show you how I tie a bow with ribbon. So just making a loop, going around. I always make sure it's not twisted on the actual bow itself. Pop that through there. Oops. Good idea to have a long piece to start with. And then I'm pulling these until I've got the length of the loop I wanted. Pulling it really tight, but then I adjust these again. This one needs to be a little bit shorter, and I'm pressing this again so it's not too flat. Really make sure the knot is very tight. So, and then I can cut these off. Make sure you've got a good pair of scissors that's not sticky. And I like to cut these at an angle. Make sure it's fairly even. It's up to you, you could have these much longer. And then one thing I like to do is use a lighter to seal off the edge there. So you can't see the flame on this one, this is just heat, just to make sure it doesn't fray. But you can see that it sort of curdles. No, curdle is the wrong word. Anyway, you can see where the plastic seals it off. And then I've got a little bow to stick on my card. But as I said, I will do all the gluing off camera. I was looking at this piece that I have cut leaves from, and I thought this would be great to use as a stencil. I know this is a bit straight there, but I'm trying to move it around a little bit to not have this very even look. And this is now the chance for me to introduce the yellow that I was thinking about originally. Could go back to putting some more green on if you wanted to, but I think this would be nice for the die cuts to pop off the background. So I'm just inking up as normal, and like with any other stencil, I'm just holding it over this. My yellow is actually very juicy. I could just ink up one of these leaves and then move the stencil about. I'm just put my fingernail in the ink pad. So can you see how that comes about? So I can just go all over to the edge as well, making it look like pattern paper, and probably turn this over this way round now, just to make it look like it's less random. I have to be mindful there, so maybe just do it in sections. I will quickly do this off camera to keep this video short, and then I'll show you how I place the leaves on this card. Apologies, I got a bit carried away off camera, so I just finished these two card toppers really, because I haven't put them on the card bases yet. So for this one I also inked up a strip of the other piece here, and just with yellow as well. Just cut it to size, stamped the happy birthday. I did not choose any black ink, I chose this VersaFine Clear Pine Cone because I thought the brown would blend in a little bit more nicely, but obviously you can go really bold. And then I just popped up these front leaves here, just with some foam dots here. For this card I cut some of them in half as well, and the ones in the back I just glued them down with glue. It's still a bit wet, that's why I just pressed this one down. So I think this works really nicely. The cards pop enough but blending at the same time, and you've got this lovely autumnal theme. I really like this one, and I like the yellow in combination with the green and the pink. This one sort of just caught my eye, actually, the leaf, when I looked through it on my screen here. I think I will just ink that up just a little bit to get rid of the white there, because that pops a little bit too much. It might have been from a piece of the cardstock that wasn't fully covered. You can see the same a little bit there, but that blends in a bit more nicely. So don't hesitate to make some adjustments after you've stuck things down on the card base. And the first one, as I said, I just popped these up. I actually just put the top of the leaves on the foam and glued the bottom of the leaves down so that they all sort of have this sort of angle. Then I popped my bow on here with some hot glue. There's a bit of leaking out, but it doesn't matter. And my die cut here at the bottom. I think this is really nice as well. I could have maybe come down a little bit lower, but then again, it's not too bad sometimes to have a bit of space on the cardstock. So I will show you these at the very end to show you what they look like on the card bases. So for the next technique, because I would like to do one more with the die cuts and then I would like to do some stamping, I will just cut some more of my dies from the other piece, and then I'll show you what we do with that. I just wanted to show you this. So where I said I had too much white, I just went in with the residue on my ink blending brush. This is a light green, probably the lime green, and just went over that, and that got rid of the white areas. So for this one here now, I would like, because many of these are very light as well, for example this one here as well is not fully covered, although it's cut from the other piece. I would like to quickly ink these up, and this time I think I'm coming in with a russet orange rather than the yellow. I just want to give these some more colours. I could come in with green or pink, but I think these would look really nice for autumn with just this colour. So as you can see, I'm just coming in with my ink blending brush, and I'm just doing all these off camera. I will now glue these down onto my card base here, just with my magic glue, sort of randomly, maybe even that one facing that way. I don't know yet whether I want to cut some in half and then coming in from the edges. Again, I will quickly do this off camera, and then I will leave this to dry because I would like to send this through my die cutting machine. I have glued all my bits down here. Ideally I wouldn't have ended up with two next to each other, two of the same kind, but it doesn't really matter. So I'd only cut two sets. I didn't want to cut a third one, but I could have done that, and as I said, put some around it and cut them off, but I'm really pleased with this. So my original thought was to just put this through the die cutting machine between two pieces of paper, and then you actually flatten out the bits and they look like they are part of the cardstock. But then I thought I might go a bit bolder here and use an embossing folder. I found these two in my stash here. This is more like a pattern, like a symmetrical pattern here. That I think is from the Paper Craft Society Advent Calendar from last year. And I've also got this one here that I really like, so I decided to go for this one here. It might actually be a 3D. Just have a look. I know this is probably not available anymore. I've had this for years. It's stuck together as well. Now it's just very fine in detail and just got caught in there. So I remember I tried to find it once because I have created at least one card on this channel with it. But anything is fine really. You could just have like a plain pattern, maybe some weaving, anything that shouts autumnal to you and is actually a pattern. I wouldn't use a motif as such. I know we've got berries here, but it doesn't matter if they get a little bit lost. So I've got my water spray here. I'm just spritzing my card, lightly misting it from the back. Need to be mindful which way around I want it. Yeah, so I'm placing it in here. And I'm spritzing it from the back because my russet orange is obviously water reactive. You could use that as a feature and have a speckled look. The acrylic paint itself, that obviously is fine and won't move. So I quickly dry emboss this off camera. So can you see? It really just gives texture. You can't actually see that these were leaves. You can just see the berry there. So maybe more patterned embossing folder would actually be better. But I want to show you this. They are actually pressed into the cardstock now. I might actually, because I'm not quite happy with it, I might actually use a different embossing folder and have another go at that. You can do that. You can dry emboss it more than once by really just applying a little bit more of water. And I think this time I will spritz it from the front to get a bit of that orange moving. Apologies, by the way, if you hear some background noises. My husband's just jet washing outside, and you might be able to hear it or not. Yes, I definitely like this batter. So I've used this embossing folder here. This is by Sam Calcott, but it is an 8x8 embossing folder, and because my die cutting machine is only 6 inches wide, and I didn't think about this when I bought it, I cut this down here with a hot knife so to fit my die cutting machine. But yeah, I like this much better because the recipient doesn't have to work out what pattern it is. It's quite obvious, and I really like this woven pattern. So I'm going to leave this to dry. We'll add a sentiment and create a card from this to show you at the end. And now I would like to take 2 more of my panels. I've got one of this left, and I've got another one left from the other piece to do some stamping. For my stamping, I'm going to use this stamp set from Creative Stamping, that's issue 112. These are lots of autumnal stamps, and I have used these before on my channel, I'm sure I have. I remember I made a card with this one, or no, maybe the deer ones, that was actually featured in the magazine. Not as a commission, just as a reader's contribution. And I would like to use these 2 large sleeve stamps here. And I just thought I like to come in with a gold again. I like the gold in combination with these colours. So I'm going to do some gold heat embossing. Very plain really. So I'm just using my anti-static powder tool. I need my, sorry I haven't taken that out yet, my Versamark ink. And I don't want to do an all over stamping. You could do that as well. I would just like to have 2 of these leaves as a feature. And because I have used these before, I don't need to prep them. So I just want 1 leaf here. Could use the same one again really, but I like the variation. And I would like the other one a little bit lower. I'm trying to see now against the light where I have stamped the other one so that they hopefully don't overlap. So I'm just going a little bit off camera there, so I'm just popping this here at the bottom. Trying not to speak when I open these doors because I know the noise of that actually goes over my speaking voice. So I'm just dipping this into here. I like my most used inks in here. Tell you what the problem is here. Why is this damp? Can you see what happened? I've got embossing powder all over in the background there. Unless it just got a bit of the mist when I misted the other card, because this obviously has been drying for days. What I will do is I will put a little bit more on and maybe make this part of the feature. Giving that a good tap from the back to get maybe lots of the loose bits off. Because you just saw me, I had my anti-static powder tool, so that shouldn't have caused a problem. Unless the acrylic ink is static by itself. But these things happen, but it's very fine, the embossing powder, and I think that could make a nice feature on the background. Is a little bit too much here for my taste, so I'm just scraping that off. Yeah, maybe the acrylic paint is sticky, so, but I'm happy with that. What I do see here is I've got a few lumps here because the other day when I created a card, I brushed some of the powder back in here, which already had Versamark on it. So never do that. But I'll go with it now because this will be a fairly rustic card. So I'm expecting there to be some gold all over as well, which will probably look really nice. So if you ever have these situations, decide to maybe go with it, have a play along and see what happens. So I quickly will heat set this off camera. I will heat set my tool for about 30 seconds and then I come in from the back first, and when that is set I'll come in from the front again. I think this look is really cool. It's very grungy, so I've got very fine speckles here in the background and then these 2 embossed leaves. This one gets a little bit lost in the speckles there, but I don't mind that. I really like that as a grungy look. What you could do with this is use some more die cuts and stack them up, but as I said, I wanted to keep this as a stamped image, so I'm using the same stamps, and I'm going to use my VersaFine Clear Pine Cone just to get some ink down where I don't have embossing. I don't know how well that will show, but I'm expecting to get a nice grungy look. I could come in with a different colour. Do I want the... no, I don't want the pink. Could come in with a green if I wasn't quite sure about this, but I'm trying to be bold. So I'm just inking this up here, and I really want to overlap these a little bit. And as I said, it will not stick on the embossing powder. It might do for the moment, but I can wipe that off, and it will just show where the cardstock is taking it. I hope the acrylic paint won't resist it too much. If that is the case, I could use some StazOn ink, but I personally don't like it. So I've got this for the moment. I will leave that to dry for a moment. I'm not going over it yet, and I'm using the other stamp as well. Do I want a different colour for that? No, I'm sticking with this. So I'm just setting this one a little bit lower, just to get a bit of movement, and I could have raised that one actually a little bit. There we go. So I said I'm leaving that to dry for a moment, and then I will blot the residue off, which means I will just take a piece of probably kitchen towel, I'll put it over like this and just rub, rather than wiping it off and it ending up on the cardstock where I don't want it. I have dabbed the ink off and I left this to dry a little bit. Don't mind this here, I've been stamping some things ahead, I'll show you these later. But I realised when I was stamping a sentiment on this piece here that the VersaFine Clear doesn't actually dry properly, because I assume because it is acrylic ink. So what I will do is, to protect the ink underneath, although I wiped a little bit off, I will put some clear embossing powder on this, same on this here, and then that should enclose the ink so that it doesn't come off. This has worked really nicely, so I've got my ink locked in with that clear embossing powder now, and I really like the look of that. So I did the same with the sentiment, so this is now rub proof, it won't come off. So I create a card with that later. I will show you, as I said before, all the cards at the end of the video. Apologies if this video is getting a little bit long, but I'm creating quite a few cards now. So my last card, or rather cards, is a twofer. I have cut this last panel in half, so I've got 2-inch strips. This is a technique I've just seen this morning, made by, or used by, Natalie from NB Cards, and it is fairly simple. I'm working straight on my cardstock here, or card base I should say. This is a top folding 4 by 5 7/8 card. Reason being is I just cut 2 card bases here from an A4 sheet, and I'm using the toadstool stamps from that magazine set. I was tempted to use the Lavinia toadstool, but I use Lavinia so much I wanted to show you something you can do with other stamps as well. So I'm placing this image here in the middle. I'm contemplating whether I want greeting on the top. No, I think I'll put it about here, and I'm picking it up. One thing I need to do is, because I haven't used this stamp before, I need to stamp it off a little bit on some scrap paper, and I think I will use some pink ink. I've got the VersaFine Clear Charming Pink, because I think that would go nicely with a pink acrylic spray, because I haven't used that really in these cards yet. So just stamping this off quickly. Yeah, you can see it's all, well, you might not be able to see, it's sort of a bit watery. You can see where it has pulled, so I'm stamping it off again, and you will most likely see that it's a much finer print, because usually, especially these magazine stamps, they've got some residue from their production on the top. Yeah, don't know if you can, well, you can see the difference actually from this distance. These are much thicker lines, this is much finer, so that's fine to go now. So I need to stamp on my card base, making sure I've got it the right way around. You can, if you wanted to, put it on an extra piece and then place the hole on the card base, but this is easy because it is just the stamping, so I might just as well do that straight on the card base. I'm trying not to press too much with these silicone stamps, but making sure I've got enough pressure there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So, and now I'm placing one of these in here. Again, I need to be mindful that I will that this will rub off, but I'm not bothered about it because I don't need the stamped image, I just need to know where it is. So I will ink it up again. Don't need to bother about the one side. Yeah, so making sure it's in place and straight, and now I just stamp this down. Doesn't even have to be a perfect stamp, so just so I know where it is. So, and I'm doing the same with the other toadstool set. Just peel it off and show you. No, it'll take a little bit longer to peel it off, sorry about that. So I will use this group same way, but I will put it probably on the, put this strip on the right hand side of the card, just to show you a variation. What I need to do now is to cut this out, but generously. So I'm just being mindful that the ink, obviously, as I've seen before, is not dry, so I don't want to smear my finger on it and smear this all over. So I'm just like a shadow going around this. I could use my round nail scissors if I wanted to, but I think this is okay. So note how I move around my cardstock rather than moving my scissors too much. So when I'm going around, I'm just closing my scissors and moving the card at the same time. So that's all I need. This can go in the bin. And now I'm using, oops, sorry about that noise. Bear with me, I'm just looking for the right tool here. Yeah, I was looking for this tool. I've got one with a slightly bigger ball at the end, but it doesn't really matter. So what I want to do now is I want to lay that down flat and just go around this, and this smoothens out the edge a little bit, so it's less obvious that you've cut it. If you have got a stamp that's got a matching die, this will obviously be even easier. You can just use the die on this and just partially die cut that. But yeah, so I shall be doing the same with this off camera, and then show you what I will do then. And I think I will finish all these cards off camera now because I'm a bit stuck for time, and I think it's straightforward. This piece here will now be either glued directly on here, or you can raise this up on foam and get this sort of look. And I will put a sentiment at the top here, I think, and that's the sort of technique for this idea here. So as I said, I will create 2 cards from this, and then I come back. I will have some other things to do in the meantime, so for you it will only be a few seconds, for me it will be a few hours before I come back and show you all my finished cards. So my cards are finished. I haven't got a clue how long this video is going to be. Apologies if it's too long, but I made quite a few cards here, so I think that's a good thing. So you've seen the first one, the first card. I'm really happy with that. I like the gold shimmer on that and the green metallic gilding polish. I think that's really pretty. Then this one, I can't remember whether I've shown you the completed one. That is with the strip across here and the leaves stuck in the back. I'm tempted to use the gilding polish on these two because I think they would pop a little bit more, but I like the background with the stenciled leaves on there. And I think a card like this would work well as a mail card. Then this is the embossed card. I put some embroidery floss around in the middle, and then I die cut this circle and put, well, I stamped this sentiment first, die cut it with a circle, and then just popped it up on some foam. You've got a bit of bulk here from the embroidery floss, or I have, so keep that in mind, but I didn't want to put the whole panel on foams just to keep it fairly flat. But I like the look of that. If you don't have embroidery floss, you could use ribbon, as I've done on the first card, or what always works is some, what's it called, some jute twine. That would be really nice as well, I think, but I only have really thick one at the moment. So this is the heat embossed card, and I really like that. I was a bit on the fence whether I wanted this sentiment here at the bottom or whether I wanted to have a plain cardstock here, but I went for it anyway. I was tempted to have some gold around this to tie this in with the gold at the top, but I really like this. I think this is very pretty. So one thing I learned, acrylic sprays don't hold any VersaFine clear. Pardon me there, I had to switch the camera off. My voice is going a little bit this morning. It is the next day. Some of you might have noticed that I've done my fingernails in the meantime. So it's because I just didn't have time to finish the cards yesterday. But yeah, when you use VersaFine Clear on acrylic backgrounds, use some clear embossing powder over the top. And then these are the last two cards I made with the panels with the stamped images. I just used my coloured pencils to colour these in, and I just stayed within the pink and the green. I just used two different greens, one pink, and I used my Posca pen on this one here to colour the little dots back in, but they did mix a little bit, or the pen mixed a little bit, so they are a little bit like a bright light pink, but it's okay. With this panel I cut it much slimmer because I wanted the wider sentiment, and I cut quite a bit off on either end. With this one I only cut off a little bit at the top and the bottom, I think, to keep it bigger. Oh, and with this one I heat embossed the sentiment in clear just because the stamping was a little bit off, and I always find it improves it a little bit. And yeah, I think these are really nice as well. And yeah, I think this autumn theme works fine in green and pink. And I'm glad I finally used my sprays. I'm really happy with all these cards. And hopefully I've got quite a few people I can give these to. I have been thinking as of late, if I make more cards I use myself, I might actually sell these cards for charity. I'll have a think about that. Yeah, and if you like these cards and this maybe long video, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.